Welcome to NTR Radio on Time Force Anubis.
I'm K-Gods.
And I'm VZ Mark II. That's right!
I was not expecting that.
That's right!
You know, half the people listening don't know what the fuck you're doing.
No clue at all.
Which is a shame, because that actually is a source of entertainment for a lot of other people. Black Israelites. Again, you have to see that video to truly appreciate.
I knew about them before that video. That's
I did too. I just never got to see them in action like that. Anyway, how's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Okay.
I wish I could say the same. I've been having a rough couple days, man.
Yeah, the week before was a little rougher. This one was
anxiety problems, you know.
Yeah, I could totally understand.
The thing is when I have them, they're not usually over something specific. They're random. They come out of left field. They can get me right out of sleep even. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, of all the it's the gift that keeps on giving, you know? It's one of those things where like, hey, the old man, that's his legacy he left to me. is an anxiety disorder. I didn't inherit his freakish like strength or anything like that. No, you get the worst thing that he had. Awesome. Not to be downer here. I'm just venting a bit. Nah, it's all
Don't
good.
be a Tim Pool.
That just
Don't be a doomer.
No, that just reminds me of Metal Gear Solid when Liquid standing up on the thing and screaming at Solid Snake, "I inherited all of the old man's recessive genes, and you got the dominant ones."
Yeah, well, I have blue eyes, so yeah, I mean.
My eyes are weird. My eye color is weird. Because they were blue when I was young. But now they're like a gray with a slight tint of green.
Interesting, because
that means you got your superpowers.
Yeah,
you just need to figure out what they are.
To be fair, mine aren't that different. In winter, they become a lot more kind of light and grayish. Again, it's kind of an odd shade of blue from what I've been told from other people. It's not like my mother's. My father has hazel eyes. So.
I mean, that just means you get your superpowers in the winter.
Yeah, well.
See, I got my superpowers back in December when all the other black people got their superpowers.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I can fly, and it's really unpleasant because the human body was not made for flight. Like unprotected
I
flight.
can think of some people whose bodies were definitely not made for flight.
Some of them were made to be orbited. Not to orbit, but to be orbited.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess we should kind of talk about what's been going on.
But first, before anyone does that, here's how you get involved with the show live. You get yourself to ntrradio.net. Click on the live chat link. That'll bring you to the page where you enter your name and hit the button to join us in the IRC channel. Alternatively, you can take your favorite IRC client and point it at irc.ryzen.net and join us in the # SLC media channel. In addition, you can get at us on Twitter at TUnubis, at VZMK2, at NTR_radio, and as always, the email address to get involved with the show is ntrradio@gmail.com.
Okay, now that we've got the obligatory, hey, get in here, get in the robot moment.
Get here.
I was gone from roughly April 26th to May 3rd. I was out of state, and I was visiting some friends of mine. No real occasion, just because, you know, there was no like event around it or anything. It was just kind of a, hey, you're free, I'm free. Nobody's really doing much, so plane tickets are pretty cheap. Here I come. So one thing we did do, though, is we watched quite a bit of anime and stuff. Well, more than I usually talk about on here anyway. One thing I'm going to just get out of the way, because we didn't watch much of it, and I think the story's funny, is we watched exactly one episode of Kiss Excess. He made it through my buddy made it through the end of the first episode, and he's like, nope. and when I say nope, it's not that he didn't like what he saw. It's that it was one of those, I can't watch this with other dudes.
I don't want to watch this now. I'll watch this later.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And it was like, I get it. But it was funny. Like, he made it to the end of the first episode, and he's like, yeah, I think we're going to take a rain check on that. Good stuff. But anyway, the things we watched to completion that I thought you might enjoy hearing about. You might not enjoy the shows themselves, but you might enjoy the little commentary. The first night I was there, I suggested let's watch Bastard.
See, I need to see. That's something I need to check out one day.
It's six episodes. It's an OVA. It's very popular manga. Certainly was. I don't know if it still is, but in any case,
director got arrested.
Yeah, wasn't it for like embezzlement or something like that? Some sort of like shenanigans with finance.
Yeah, I think I'm almost certain like that.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, couple things about this. They had never seen it. Well, Derek had seen it before, but Amos had not. And anyway, he saw it, and it's just like, this is an interesting thing because it does kind of come in that sort of Record of Lodoss War thing. It's fantasy. It's a lot more violent than that, though. It's more like Berserk, but it's also kind of humorous, and there's some meta stuff in there. It's not as serious and dark as Berserk, but it's more so than anything like Slayers or Record of Lodoss War.
Yeah,
and there's also a weird humor in there.
Yeah, there's also sexy stuff. I assume.
Oh yeah. It's gore. There's a lot of gore. Like, people being impaled and shit like that, and it's pretty graphic. Good stuff. Very, very Vlad. Anyway, it's they all enjoyed it, but the best part about it was my realization that that's probably where I found out I had a thing for dark elves. Because think about that. That was one of the earlier anime I saw that had one. And yeah, if you've seen it, you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah. That was just like me, like watching the guy for OVAs and discovering I had a thing for anime schoolgirls.
Yeah, so there you go. Another thing we did that was pretty entertaining, or I thought it was anyway, was we watched Venus Wars.
Oh, okay.
Which I got to tell you is super a marvel to look at.
Yeah, very, very high production value.
Yeah, to say the least. It's
goddamn character designer also.
Yeah, and there's a dude that looks like Giran if he had long hair.
Yeah.
Like almost on point. It's like, what the hell? Did you reuse this? Kind of thing. It's really good. If you like basically 80s anime and OVAs and things like that, it's absolutely a must-see. The visuals alone are worth looking at. The only thing that doesn't hold up visually is sort of the deserts. The weird CG kind of sweeping views of just like realistic footage of a real desert.
No, it wasn't CG. It was actual photograph. It was actual,
yeah. My bad. Yeah, it looked like, well, we were in Arizona, so it looked like outside.
That was one I saw in the late 90s on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, it's well worth checking out. If just a viewing, we watched it on a big screen in a Blu-ray, so it was absolutely phenomenal.
Sentai put out a nice new release of that. So
yeah. So I'll definitely pick it up next time I do a shopping spree. The next thing we popped off was something. Another one that some people hadn't seen was Otaku no Video.
Hey. Classic.
Not only is it very classic, but everybody always laughs when it has because it intersplices animation with actual people and interviews and stuff.
Yeah,
segments.
Not actual interview,
Yeah, live action.
Yeah, let's put it that way. Yeah, okay, that fair enough. But the point is it splices it with real people. Yeah, and there's a reason for this. It's actually pretty humorous. They're all mosaicked out usually.
Yeah.
For which, uh, again, there's not really not much I can say there without spoiling some stuff. But there is a really particularly funny scene where a dude's just like shamelessly whacking it.
Yep.
That's pretty funny.
I'm sure you like the guy with the Char helmet.
Yeah, that was very entertaining. And then of course you had the English speaking guy.
Yeah.
Which they were translating kind of funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually for real did that guy dirty.
Yeah,
Like,
because what he said wasn't exactly what he said.
no.
And I mean, it's like you can just hear that's not what he's saying. It's just like, huh? That's kind of weird.
Because me being the ultra nerd, I saw the Gundam model in the background. So
Yeah. Oh, so did I. I did as well. I just wasn't going to mention it, but pretty interesting. There's this weird musical cue in that when it changes like scenes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like it's like this weird, almost poignant, romantic sounding piano. There's something weird about that.
Yeah.
It's like it feels out of place somehow. It just seems like something out of a Brazilian soap opera or some shit. I don't know. It always struck me as kind of out of place. Oh well. I got tagged along to see the new Demon Slayer movie.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I watch that without having seen anything of the series? Because I hear you can't.
You can, but it's one of those things where, like, if you saw Char's counterattack, where, like, yeah, you'd be able to make sense of it, but, like, yeah.
To be fair, I think I saw Char's counterattack before Zeta, so. You know.
Well, to be fair, I was dragged along. I mean, I was sort of in the like, hey, we're doing this, and unless you want to just sit by yourself, yeah. So,
is it worth the title of, like of being like the most profitable anime ever?
That just depends on how much of a fan you are of Demon Slayer.
Okay, so it's not just something that you can...
Yeah, I mean, like that will depend more upon your loyalty to the brand than it would to just being by itself, I'd say. Anyway, of course, it was visually very impressive, and there wasn't a whole lot of people there, but there were people there. One thing we did do that I didn't mention yet, and I'm doing this to take a little break, is we actually went bowling one night. And I will not repeat some of the scores that were acquired.
Uh-oh.
They were not too good. Let's just say that. Let's just say the last time I was bowling, I think I was a teenager.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so was not really great. And it's kind of sad because I've got relatives that were on leagues and stuff, so they were actually good at it. Yeah. So I was when I was doing it, I could just hear people in my ears saying, "You got bad form. Stop that."
My high school was very close to a bowling, so actually the first class I had was in the bowling alley.
Interesting. Well, we actually in gym class we actually had bowling one semester. Because we were that close to a bowling alley.
Damn.
Yeah, that was actually one of the funner ones. Anyway, to not to get in on the were your shoes tight or some dumb conversation like that. Moving along, other things we watched is we whipped out Gunsmith Cats. That was pretty rocking.
Excellent.
And I will say this, none of us could get the theme song out of our head the entire rest of the trip. You know, the big band kind of dun, 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 jazzy sort of intro.
Yeah.
I remember.
I think you know what I'm talking about. They used it for a lot of promos during the ADV era.
Yeah, that was on the Encore Action. That used to be on the Encore Action channel.
Yeah. And by the way, if you do get it from Animego, here's a plug for them. If you got even like I think the standard Blu-ray, they got the commentary and all this other stuff, like the making of. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I need to pick that up.
Yeah, I definitely will. And you can get like the Ultra Edition, which is like $70, which comes with like a big art book, a bunch of other stuff.
Damn, I get that.
I think it comes with like decals and stickers and shit. I don't know, something like that. Could be wrong. Then there's a couple other really unusual ones that I saw both of which I'd never really heard much of. One of which was called Moonlight Mile.
That sounds very familiar. I've heard
Same
the
here.
name.
Yeah, it's basically sort of a space themed thing where like they're training to be astronauts and go into space and all that.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Like the main male character is this complete horn dog who pretty much fucks anything that moves. Like not even kidding. There's a scene where they try to get a hold of him and they open like the crane and he's just like wrecking this chick in there. And they're like, "Oh." And then later you see her walk by. "Thanks for the crane ride." It was pretty funny. Yeah, it was interesting, I guess. Definitely a little outside of my wheelhouse for things like that I would watch, but it was all right. Then there was the movie I saw, Genocidal Organ.
Oh, I've heard of that. Only because it was like just alone sounded very like this is meant for Western audience type of.
Well, more than that, it was definitely aimed more at your genocyber kind of people.
Right.
Because it's violent as all hell and all this other good stuff. It's very dark and depressing. Holy shit, is it ever? So that's what I'm going to tell you about that. It's just pretty bleak.
Yeah.
Entertaining, but bleak, and again, not necessarily the thing biggest in my wheelhouse, but some give and take. I watch some stuff. I pick some stuff. They pick some stuff. Oh, we also went through Hellsing Ultimate for fun, which I hadn't seen in a long time, to be honest. So that was pretty fun. Most people like that better than the original TV, just simply because it follows the manga more, and B, the ending kind of makes more sense. But it is what it is. So it was pretty good. Beyond that, we watched some other stuff in between, like the first season of Married with Children for shits and giggles. Ended up just bullshitting, watching a bunch of old Tumblrs and videos.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, probably the most entertaining thing that guy did. So yeah, that's pretty much most of the stuff we watched. Lots of interesting food. We went to a bunch of places there, some of which just aren't in existence where I live. So, not naturally, you want to hit those. Why the hell would you want to go just eat at the places you always eat at?
It's a local cuisine.
Yeah, exactly. Tried some different places there. Also, they had a thing there that we actually don't have around here called a Wiener Schnitzel. That's actually the name of it, yeah. And they sell a bunch of goodies, So, anyway. That's pretty much wrap up anything we were watching, I'd say. We did other things, like I said, we went bowling and some of this other stuff that we could talk about a whole episode on that stuff, but for brevity's sake, we're not going to.
So, is that it?
Yeah. Again, I'm not going to talk about the other stuff we did, like say bowling and whatnot, simply because that's not going to be of terrible interest to probably anybody listening to this.
So the stuff I've been watching is the usual season stuff. Let's Make a Mug 2, Super Cub, Dynazeon, which I'm only watching for the one girl.
Is it basically still following the not disappointing?
It's just kind of like
not living up to expectation.
Yeah, it's just kind of in the middle. It's
okay, so probably not something I'm going to care much about then.
Yeah, I mean, you could always check it out.
I like the original one, but this sounds like it's a much less fun version of that.
Yeah, like I said, I'm only really watching for that one girl. Her design is great. Even the monster fighting isn't as good as the original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I enjoyed sort of the the original simply for the fact that it had, or shouldn't say the original, the one that came out recently.
Yeah.
Simply for the like music direction, if nothing else.
Yeah. Also, does that I know I'm like a broken record with this, but man, when they do the 3D CG, when the mecha is in 3D CG, it looks terrible. Because it goes back to that, and then 2D, radio 2D, and it just again the level of jarringness.
I'm telling
And
you,
I
I
say,
think I figured out 3D CG. Like you can't try to do mecha anime shots in 3D CG. You got to do what Gundam the Origin does.
well, here's yeah, that, but also coming in the summer, there's going to be a new Getter Robo anime,
Oh
which is
yeah.
yeah.
Is it
and
my idea?
Was it Ghetto
Ghetto
Robo?
Robo.
Ghetto Robo. And like the mecha would have like an afro.
Dude, instead of that new Netflix thing Yasuke, it should have been Ghetto Robo. Someone should have called whatever his name is and told him, "Hey, listen, I know you're really passionate about this Yasuke thing. I get it. I understand. I'm with you, but listen, hear me out. Ghetto Robo."
I just got this hilarious visual of the main mecha with this big like afro and
So like instead of Homeboy with his fucking badass sideburns and shit, the main character basically looks like Undercover Brother.
Is that thing with the Black Samurai thing?
Yeah, that's the Netflix thing with the Black Samurai.
Yeah, of course it was Netflix.
yeah, well, it's just like, the main dude wears bell bottoms or some shit, and like he stepped out of a '70s blaxploitation.
No, but the 3D CG for that looks actually really good. Mm-hmm. And I can't quantify the reason why. I just know it looks better than what I've seen in Dynazeon. The other thing I watched is I was in the mood for watching those like there's of course Mazinger, but there's all those like this super robot with this super robot crossover movies.
Yeah,
I've been watching a bunch of those.
Mm-hmm.
From the 70s, and most of them are really good. I think like I said, you get the best aspects of those things without sort of the aspect of watching those old shows, which is the large repetitiveness.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's not even a knock at those shows per se. It's just that those things were designed before home video recording, so you had to watch that thing a week, and you didn't mind seeing the same stuff every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you've got a week to just sort of not forget, but filter out sort of the repetitive nature of it.
Yeah,
and not only that, but it's sort of. Some things actually work to your benefit to watch them that way.
What's amusing?
Others not. Like Mazinger Z is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Sailor Moon to an extent. I don't think its repetitiveness is as bad as that. I mean, most Monster of the Week stuff is at least kind of. Again, obviously it's repetitive, but at the same time, you can do stuff with that. You don't have to make it super, like drudging or inane or whatever.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be done with it, but at the time when there wasn't really the home video market like there is now, yeah, it probably there was no real incentive to even bother.
What's amusing is some of these robot shows did come out in like the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Either on TV.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because there was a thing called Force 5, which was 5 different. Actually, one wasn't a robot show, but it was a sci-fi show done by Toei. Where it was like one show each day a week. And it was stuff like Grandizer and Guy King and Get a Robo G. for example.
Yeah. Again, here's holding out that they eventually come to their senses and come and decide to do my idea. Note, I should point out to people who are listening to this and are freaking out, that is a joke. I don't seriously think they're going to entertain that idea. I doubt it. But you never
Unless
know.
it was like an Adult Swim jokey show.
Or
But,
like
you
an
know.
original creation or something, maybe. Yeah. I could see that, possibly. But anyway, oh yeah, in between a lot of this stuff, we were just kind of watching random stuff, random little bits of humorous nonsense. I can't even really, I can't even really explain it very well because it was that random. It was just lots of weird, kind of funny videos.
Yeah.
We were
I
watching
was watching mostly because you guys brought it up on Discord. I'm like, okay, I gotta watch some of these again. Hilarious PSAs, mostly from the 80s.
Oh yeah, they actually had a really entertaining compilation of those.
Yeah.
It was basically all of your like Captain Planet and GI Joe things and whatnot, where it was basically these. They were bad. I mean, there's no way you can say they were good. They were terrible, but I guess they have entertainment in hindsight.
Like well, if they were either like non-issue problems or they were trying as hard to scare you. That was the level of those PSAs. It's either an issue that's like a non-issue, or they're really trying their hardest to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, sort of like the Stranger Danger shit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which, if you actually know anything about that, or even that time period, was total hyped up as bullshit.
Satanic Panic.
No, that was a different thing.
Well, that too.
That was a totally different thing. No, I mean less serious. Too. I mean, like, you know, people being abducted is a bit more serious than that. But again, what they didn't tell you is that most of those abductions were by people they knew. So, I mean, but we all got if you're within a certain age group, I think you'll remember having that, like, don't talk to strangers, don't get near their car if they ask for you to help them find a dog, or.
Oh yeah, I used to see the Winnie the Pooh one that they did. But yeah,
after school special kind of shit.
Yeah. Oh no, but I think I found the mother of them all. This one from the early 2000s from South Africa. You gotta watch this after. Type in Biggie Bear.
Nah, I'm good.
Oh no! Oh. It's like it's one of those. Are you watching what your children are watching type of things? And it has this like you think it's like a kids show with like a guy dressed like a bear is all happy, but then you see. Well, I'm just giving you scenario 1 of the 3, where it's, and then like, a dog comes by. It's like, I'm sad. Oh, why are you so sad? And it's like, here, why don't you try some of this? And it's like, yeah, he's giving him like heroin. Look at the bubbles. Yeah. It's
yeah. They were so ridiculous about a lot of these things. Like, I mean, you could probably just be blunt about it, and it would have been more effective.
In a way, we still kind of have those, but now it's like the see really depressing people that
those fucking CDC commercials.
Yeah.
Where they're basically like anti-smoking propaganda.
Yeah. Oh, it's like
where
it's like
it always shows like deformed faces and shit.
It's like, you know, it's one of the things, you know, but it's you don't want to see that.
Well, not only that, but they're not telling you that they also did other shit. But they also smoked. You know, it's like, I mean, let's be real here. Most people that smoke don't end up looking like that. They're taking cases of people that have other problems, comorbidities or whatever.
So, like I said, even if it is just smoking, it's not something you want to really see on normal. I feel like television isn't the thing to sort of lecture you on the thing, especially something at that level where it's like they're lecturing on one hand, but then trying to advertise other.
Well, the funny thing about it was, and I told I jokingly told one of my friends this. I says, you know, I don't smoke, but I get the urge to after I see commercials like that. Because it's like, because they're that fucking annoying and preachy.
I joked in the chat the other day about like, what if there were PSAs for like gotcha games?
Oh yeah, wouldn't it have to be like some sort of like Pringles thing where once you pop you can't stop, or
Once you get addicted, and then now can't stop.
yeah, exactly.
All I wanted was that SSR, card in the game.
Yeah.
And then you see the person is homeless in the street.
Oh, oof. Again, depends on where it would take place. You see, like the Yazuka van coming by, and Anyway,
All right, so I haven't watched shit, mostly because I'm working on the book. I'm aiming for a mid-June release because the book is done. Like, the book is feature complete. It's been through the editor, all that. I'm basically number one. I need to do all the ISBN stuff, and then I'm also waiting to hear back from Animego because there's one screenshot I have on there that I'm just.
You have to clear it.
Yeah, I emailed them, say, hey, I have writing this book. I'm using this screenshot. Here's it unaltered. Here's it as it appears in the book, and they're gonna get back to me on that.
Okie doke.
Smart move.
Outside of that though, I did. So Steam had their Golden Week sale, and I bought a bunch of games that I'm guaranteed to be bad at.
Okay.
So for some reason, I'm addicted to shmups, even though I'm terrible at them. So
same. I love shoot 'em ups. Some of the best ones are also the most difficult.
Oh yeah. I bought fucking Ikaruga. I don't know why I bought Ikaruga.
I don't know if I ever heard that one,
So Ikaruga is like before. Ikaruga was Dark Souls before Dark Souls was Dark Souls. Like Ikaruga was the hardest fucking game ever before Dark Souls came around and is like, hey. The Ikaruga is the one where you have the ship that can switch between white and black. And when you're black, you absorb all the black bullets. When you're white, you absorb all the white bullets.
I see.
When did it come out originally?
This was early 2000s, I believe. It was originally on one of the. It was either the Model 3 or the Naomi, the Sega arcade system. It got ported to the Dreamcast as well. I think there's a version on like the Xbox Live Arcade and shit. No, this is 2001 on the Sega Naomi arcade system. But I got that. I bought fucking R-Type Dimensions EX, which is it's like the first two R-Type games. What else did I got Raiden 4.
When I think of these type of games, I think of like some older ones like Sky Shark, Gradius.
That's another one I'm bad at. It's Gradius.
Well, yeah, most people are. From what it seems like. You know, another one's not really exactly the same as these kind of games, but sort of fits into that obnoxiously hard bullet hell kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that Silver Surfer game for the NES?
Yeah, I'm not even touching that.
Yes, I
I'm not going anywhere near that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's broken as shit.
Like, well,
like you hit anything, you die.
Yeah, that's
basically.
LJN.
Yeah, I also got Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors.
Oh,
gotta love these naming schematics they have for these type of games.
I'm surprised you don't have, because you're a Saturn collector, Darius Gaiden.
Number one, did that come out in the U.S.?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Yeah, I should be on the lookout for that then. Cause
I love the boss. I love the boss music because it's like weird techno mixed with like sounds almost like traditional Japanese. So it's like it gives a weird hauntingness to it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
what I've played of Darius Burst, because again, I'm really bad at it, cause so I think I've cleared the second level once, but what I played of it, like it's really good. Out of the ones that I bought over the Golden Week sale, is probably my favorite so far. I mean, I've played a bunch of Ikaruga, which means I've played the first level and half of the second level over and over again.
Mm.
But
The only Dariuses I've played. All right, they had it on the Genesis, but they called it. They switched it around, so it was called Sagaya, but that's really Darius 2.
Mhm.
And the Super Nintendo one, Darius Twin. That's it.
Mhm.
That one's really good.
but yeah, I got those games. There are some that if there are a few games like if they appeared on Steam tomorrow, I'd buy them. Like Radiant Silvergun, Border Down. If those were on Steam tomorrow, I'd buy them. I'm not good at either of them, but I would buy them.
Another hard one, like I can't get past the first. Not just the first level, like the first beginning part. That's how hard it is. Gaiares
The problem
for
with
the Genesis.
Ghosts and Goblins for a lot of people too.
Yeah,
They they just could not play it hardly.
See, with shmups, I can usually get past the first level. R-Type and Gradius, no chance. But
I could get past the
I'll be
first level
real.
in R-Type.
I'll be real. With Gradius, I've only really played the original to completion. And I'm gonna point this out. It's one of those games where, like, you've played it. I'm assuming, so you know how it works with the upgrades and all that.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know how that works. I don't need to explain any of that, do I?
Yeah. You go through and
if you die,
yeah,
you lose all of them.
exactly.
You go straight back to zero. If you die in the middle of some levels, you might as well just reset.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically,
You are fucked.
That's to a T. That is Abidox on the NES.
Because there are certain parts of certain levels that there's just no way in hell you're getting through with your basic shooting and no shields or anything.
That game is like unplayable without your power ups.
Yeah. You're if you don't get your upgrades, you are going to have a bitch of a time doing anything. The worst thing is if you're, and I'd say that's about from level 3 on. I would say with the like fucking Easter Island heads shooting at you.
Yeah.
That's what they kind of look like anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're based on.
Well, obviously.
And also, but I've played the one I played the most is Gradius 3, which was the Super Nintendo one,
which most people say is the best one, seemingly.
Yeah.
I can't get past the first level of that one.
Really, I could get past a few.
I can get to
I like
the
the
boss
bubble level. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, gods.
What
the
now?
Bubble level in Gradius 3.
Oh yeah. They all have one of those, don't they? Pretty sure they do.
I don't think this one, but the thing about, because it was on the Super Nintendo, it had kind of a slowdown.
Oh yeah, and that's weird because most SNES games really didn't have that problem.
Yeah. Oh, but the thing is, it was so much going on the screen.
Well, right. I mean, and you'd think that it's really weird how sometimes you'll get these ports that are actually worse than the originals, even though they're on superior hardware. They'll be like much slower and less reactive and stuff, or just like the graphics look worse. I mean, it's like, are you trying to sabotage some of this stuff? I don't know. In any case, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's nerve grinding, maybe, I guess would be the right word.
It's like, and we'll hit up the main topic after this. But the thing I like about shmups is that if I lose, it's my fault. It's always my fault.
Actually, one I recommend, because it's not. I mean, I haven't beaten, but it's a good, easy one to start with, as long as you don't mind top to bottom.
I'm actually a lot better at top.
Yeah, well,
top
like
down.
Raiden.
Yeah, I'm a lot better at that.
Wasn't that? Oh no! It was called Life Force, not Dragon Force.
Yeah, no. Well, Life Force did both. They did
Yeah,
both
so
top
did
to bottom.
Contra. Actually, you had the couple levels where you were going, forward, up, like you were in bases and whatnot.
Yeah, but anyway, I told you about this game, Truxton,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
which in Japan is called Tatsujin, which is great because it translates as expert, which is like the best. That's like the best name for a hard shooter.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Then they're just fucking with you.
It's like, this game is very hard, the video game.
Yeah, I mean, like they probably could have put that on the original Mario too.
Yeah, look up the Genesis box art.
Okay.
Not the Mega Drive, the Genesis, the North
Okay.
American.
I'll take a look at it.
That is such a great box art. And the thing is, I never rented it when I had my Genesis. I had to play like emulation. But that box art always stood out to me because it was just that cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have a main topic, and that is going to be a news topic.
Let's news.
Working to restore power.
All right, and before, like, just to preempt this because this was mentioned in the IRC, I have no interest in talking any more than I already have about the Umumusume thing. I think it's I think everyone's getting
heard about it and made an opinion.
Well, no, everyone's heard
yeah.
about it. Everyone has an opinion, and I think everyone's getting way too up in arms about it. So let's get to some actual important news. This coming from... Link is going out in the IRC. I'll give you guys the link as well. This coming from Crunchyroll News. Kadokawa aims for 40 new anime productions a year going forward.
I mean,
I can't keep up. What am I gonna do?
Well, yeah,
I have to
the
watch
basis is
everything.
Kadokawa released their financial report, and they're saying in 2020 their sales were up 2.6%, and across all sectors, their profit.
it's actually a pretty significant increase.
Yeah, well, across all sectors, their profit increased by 114.6%.
Might not sound like it, but if you know how these actual sales and all these things work, that actually is a pretty high one.
Yeah,
I wonder if just this theory,
and that's
throw
net,
out-
not like that's net sale. That's basically profit.
but I was gonna say just a theory of mine before you continue. I wonder if the pandemic also like since people were home.
I guarantee you that played a role.
I guarantee you 100% that had a lot to do with it.
100% guarantee that played a role.
It's kind of like pointing out that, hey, less people got the flu this year. Or last year, rather.
So,
And, yeah. Exactly.
so there's also they also recently purchased a controlling stake in J Novel Club, which is an American light novel publisher.
So it looks like Kadokawa is dipping their toes back in over here.
It looks to be that way.
Because they tried it once, and maybe it was just bad timing for them. Because it certainly isn't a lack of people interested.
There's definitely growth in the U.S. anime market. I think, and again, I'll continue to repeat this. I think it was a massive mistake on Kadokawa's part not to directly port Kantai Collection over to the States.
Oh,
Right.
And
Yeah.
to let
I would
Azure
definitely
Lane
stand
come in.
with you on that one.
Yeah, Azure Lane come and eat their lunch on that. But if this paradigm continues and Kadokawa starts working more closely with American companies, I think that could be a positive thing. But what we're focused on in this article is below the J Novel Club thing in bold. Along with more light novels, Kadokawa wants to increase the number of anime they help produce from 33 titles in 2020 to over 40 titles per year.
Which people need to realize that, I mean, yeah, that's... Kadokawa is a big company. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
they're-
Kadokawa is one of the biggest.
Yeah, they're one of the biggies.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think people need to know how much they were making before they freak out about that. Like you said, so they just did. It
Yeah,
was what?
they're from 33 to 40, so 7
Which,
more anime.
which, I mean, considering what all goes into anime, yeah, that is quite a few.
Yeah,
But
that's
but
that's
don't
pretty
but let's not
significant, but
pretend
it's
they were
not.
making 15 and doing it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not a
portion.
massive jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
that-
again,
which is
again,
kind
the
of my
thing
point.
the thing that people are freaking out is the whole like.
Oh,
and
they
to
think
me,
about
it
they're
comes-
trying to stretch too thin.
Yeah, and again, to me, it just always comes
That's
off more.
an argument you used to hear from JC staff too.
You always hear it. To me, it just sounds more sanctimonious than ever, because it's like being concerned about the animators and all that, and it's
Which
like
I understand that, but I don't want to hear that from people who don't buy stuff.
that, and also like
It's one thing to be up on your high horse. It's another when you don't really have a right to be on there
yeah,
because you're not really doing anything to help that problem.
yeah, that's one aspect.
But that's just my opinion.
Well, so you're hitting on basically our the next point is that the announcement that Kadokawa wants to make 40 anime a year is bubbled back up to the surface this argument of the anime industry needs to be making less anime because that would go towards helping the animators. So the logic is given the same amount
animators are not paid per hour that way, right?
we'll get to that, but just to explain the logic is given the same amount of resources, if they made fewer anime per year, more of those funds could go toward increasing the work standards at the studios and paying the animators more. That's the logic.
And
Right.
quality
Where's-
of anime
where's the
could
logic?
be better.
The
you know?
logic used to be the logic used to be they needed to make less so they could make more of the things they thought were good.
That's
Wait.
that's the quiet part that they're not saying out loud.
Oh no, they totally believe that. That's just sort of that's the part they don't say out loud.
Well, it's
Well,
some of them say it out loud because I remember, and this is what really turned me on to the make less anime argument was this one video by the artist formerly known as Digibro. And what Digibro was complaining about at the time was, remember that sidecar anime, the sidecar racing girls anime?
Car. Yeah.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
car.
Not really.
Yeah, well, that's kind of Digibro's point, but Digibro was saying we don't need this anime. Like, this anime basically couldn't exist and nothing would change. Which, in hindsight, perhaps correct. However, I'm number one. I don't think the answer is we need to remove stuff.
There's fans of everything. That's another thing.
Exactly. That's my second point, is that you don't get to dictate who, like, maybe some people are really pumped about the sidecar anime.
I mean, I don't know any of them, but
I don't know any of them, but maybe those 5 people exist. But those 5 people deserve to have their anime.
That was done by the same thing that did Girls and Ponds at the same studio.
Yeah, there you go.
well, there you go.
And
So it's
obviously
not
that
like it was
studio
a
needs
nobody.
work. But so,
Well,
but that, what you're right, Kagaz, because that was the basis of that particular argument, is that, hey, maybe the resources that made this show could go into making more shows that Digibro likes. But
don't work that way.
that's the whole thing, is there's an argument that they should make less anime so those resources could go further toward compensating the animators more, which we all agree is an issue.
Which sounds noble.
Well, yeah, we all agree that that's something that needs to happen. That the the working conditions are shitty, the pay is shitty. Basically, if you're in this industry, the only reason you're in this, you're not in it for the pay. That's out the window.
No.
You're in it because you're really passionate about this industry and you want to be in this industry. And it might that's a fixable problem, but that
But not
does
by the West.
well,
saying,
not
"Do it
by the
this way."
West, but it doesn't really matter by the West or the East. What matters is, are we tackling the right aspect of the problem? And I don't think that the number of anime that come out is the right aspect of the problem to tackle. Not only that, I think that any scenario that would result in less anime, in fewer titles coming out per year, whether that be natural or artificial, would
That was
be fucking
the argument.
devastating.
I'm sorry, but that was the argument brought up by the former director of Gundam 00. Remember?
No, I don't particularly remember that arc. Could you refresh my memory?
He was basically saying like that it's the same thing about they should be making less anime, and that if things continue, they're going to be forced to be making less anime.
So
Something to that effect.
so from a studio perspective, that makes sense, because what that director is seeing is, we are stretched very thin, we are low on resources, and we need to be able to, like, we need to be able to hold back for a bit. So
Allocate everything to where it needs to go.
well, we could argue that's kind of a different problem, but from a studio perspective, that makes sense. But the issue comes when you look at the anime industry as a whole. So I don't want to give the full refresher, but when it's time to make an anime, a production committee gets together and they're the ones who give the studio the budget to make the anime. The
They're
studio,
basically where the capital comes from.
yeah, and that's usually work for hire. So like, if you were to hire someone to build your house, the construction company is not entitled to a part of the sale if you sell the house.
Hmm.
So part of the issue is that the revenue streams for studios are very limited compared to the revenue streams for production committees. And what happens if we have a make less anime scenario, again, whether natural or artificial, whether there's some kind of collapse in the anime market where there straight up is not enough money going around to fund more anime, or we have some kind of agreement to limit how much anime is made, that would be turmoil for the anime industry. A lot of people would lose their jobs. We would probably see quite a few studios close down, because part of the reason that these studios need to take on so much work is because they have so few opportunities to gain revenue.
Mm-hmm. And like
So-
you said, on a timeline, anime is a slow burn.
Anime is it's profitable, but it's profitable over time. And also that generally only applies to the production committees, not necessarily the studios. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we do, and we've been seeing more and more of this over the years. There are some times when studios can sit on their own production committees, but that's predicated on them having enough money to invest in their own productions. So I've
Right.
seen JC staff sit on some of their own production committees. I've seen
Mhm.
Doga Kobo sit on some of their own production committees. I've seen many.
And then you have, of course, KyoAni, which always does.
Which always does, because
It
they're able to
perpetually
do it.
does.
And KyoAni's able to do it because they made a few hits early on.
And basically, they were able to set themselves up to where they could do that.
Exactly. Then you also have studios like Sunrise, studios like A1 Pictures, who just have very close relationships with, in the case of Sunrise, that's Bandai. In the
Sunrise is
case
interesting.
yeah,
in
in the
the sense
case
that-
of A1 Pictures, that's Aniplex.
Sunrise is interesting in the sense that it's a fucking big studio.
It's massive, and
Like put it this way: if something's made by Sunrise, you could take two things that are made by Sunrise, and they'd be made by entirely two different sets of people.
yeah, it's like Sunrise has multiple divisions of Sunrise who all make
that work on
different stuff.
different kinds of things. It's actually pretty wild. I mean, like, and if you do your digging, you'll find out which ones worked on what and whatnot.
Toei's like that too, actually.
Yeah, they are. Which, by the way, I have not seen their new movie, the Gojira versus King Kong, but they're not gonna let their homeboy lose.
Oh no, I think you're thinking of Toho, not.
Oh yeah, Toho. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
No, I was
yeah,
just thinking of that though.
But
My
yeah,
bad.
so
I got that confused in my mind for some reason.
so that's the issue, is that the studios generally don't have the same kind of revenue that the rest of the production committee has, because generally speaking, what they do is work for hire. You don't
Sound like
hire the
contract killers or something.
you don't hire someone to build your hotel and then give them a cut of whenever someone stays in the room every time.
No, it's a one and done thing.
Generally, it's a one and done thing. I believe they're entitled to some royalties from the TV broadcast. I believe they're sometimes entitled to some royalties from the physical sales of the anime, but my intuition would be that would depend on the contract, and there are probably some studios with a lot more bargaining power in that respect.
Yeah. Okay.
So what it comes down to is, when we talk about they need to make less anime, it's talking purely from a studio perspective, and it's not incorporating the big picture of the anime industry, and that's the problem. Because
yeah, I
we
mean,
don't-
if you look at it on a smaller level or just like one company, that makes a lot more sense, because obviously if you stretch then within a company, that's going to be that problem.
Yeah. Well, if
I mean-
it was studios, if the anime studios make was decided by the studios, then yes, we need to make fewer anime per year, so we can like conserve some of these resources. But the genesis of most anime that we give a shit about is in the production committee. If Aniplex and Sony Music,
Most anime used to be sponsored by toy companies before.
Yeah,
True.
I mean,
Well-
like,
well, that's-
especially back during the bubble era.
well, this is the whole thing that let anime survive the bubble era bursting, was this business model.
Well, sure, because that way, when something doesn't, and let's be real here, everybody in their right mind knows that not everything's going to be a success.
Exactly.
And so they sort of figure, well, if we do it this way, there's low risk.
Yeah. If
Because not everybody loses a giant fucking chunk of change.
exactly. If an anime costs, I'm thinking, $2 million to produce. If an anime costs $2 million, let's say an anime costs $2 million to produce. If my company goes in on 100% on that $2 million and it flops, my company's out $2 million. If all three of us decide, hey, we're gonna go in and make this anime, we're all gonna the committee, which is our three companies, are gonna have the rights to it, and we're gonna be able to leverage this anime to sell other things, like toys, like music, like video games, and we reap all the profits from that collectively. Not only if that thing fails, not only are we out individually, we're not 2 million in the hole, we're significantly less than that. Not only that, but now we're all able to reap the benefits of this thing if it is successful. So it
really is actually a pretty clever marketing model.
It's exactly. It's how
Or
the
I shouldn't say marketing. I should say production model.
well, yeah, the anime industry, really the otaku industry, has proven to be recession proof multiple times, I believe. And
Well, yeah, because again, the way it works is not. It's seemingly better seen as to have steady, slow growth than wild ups and downs.
exactly, you, and that's one thing that anime also provides, is because it's a slow burn. Not only is it a slow burn, but most anime is successful. The statistic I read was 78% of anime makes a profit eventually.
Yeah, again, it's just one of those things where if you're looking at it from like the blockbuster like opening weekend model, you would see it as a failure, but that's looking at it the wrong way.
Exactly.
You're looking at it through a short term gain and basically infinite tapering off. That and sometimes just a flat out plunge into the abyss that never comes back out.
Exactly.
You were saying about like how again the otaku market is what saved the anime industry through the recession of the.
Well, sure.
Well, it's the fact that they cater to the otaku market is one, and the production company business model was what allowed them to continue serving that otaku market through the 80s bubble bursting and whatnot.
Because I was gonna say that's kind of something again. Before the show, I was talking about like how the Western toy industry is just having trouble keeping stock of their of their stuff.
Again, a lot of that does seem to be kind of out of touch people that really aren't really following where the stuff's going.
They're out of touch.
The lack of calibrating your industry for who is, because you know what happens. They get so few, and then scalpers come in. Well, if you had the proper numbers to release stuff, then you wouldn't have the scalpers come in, buy up all the shit, and then now, granted, stuff like Toys R Us going under was a big.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, actually, because the last time I can remember like a big deal with scalping and whatnot wasn't like toy related. It was actually when the Wii came out, because what ended up happening is demand overtook supply considerably, and and you couldn't get them if you wanted one.
That's Nintendo's stuff. That always seems to be with Nintendo.
Well,
Nintendo consistently has an issue with their demand outstripping their supply, and on some level, I think that's deliberate.
Well, yeah, probably so. But in this case, I have a feeling it was they did not expect it to take off the way it did.
I think with the Wii, that's true. Yes.
And they were sort of like fumbling, like, oh crap, we don't have enough to meet actual demand.
With the Wii, that's true.
You'll know when the Switch came out, they didn't have that problem nearly as much.
They didn't have the problem nearly as much. It was still a problem, but then what happened in addition to that was COVID happened, and that shut down production. Like you were not able to get a Nintendo Switch for the better part of 2020.
Yeah, which is a shame, because like that's the perfect time to be using one.
Facts.
But I mean, really.
But so like this is and VZ, you bring up a good point on how the West does things versus how Japan does things. And like I saw this tweet from Morathiel earlier today about like Domino's Pizza Malaysia using that tall lady from the new Resident Evil in their pizza ad. And I replied to him with this tweet I made from back in February of the text is Japanese marketers are living in 3105 while the rest of the marketing world is stuck in 2021. And it's the little Good Smile Company Tenga robot toy.
Yeah.
So it's like some marketer looked at the fucking Tenga Onaho and said, what if we made this into a funny robot character? And then they
Uh,
did it, and now and Good Smile Company made it, and now they're
you
both
never
making
cease
money.
you never cease to amaze and or disappoint, depending who you're talking to.
And then it's like, yo, what if we did a crossover with other famous robots? And all now Mazinger Z has its own Tenga robot with a giant
Yeah.
Tenga fist.
Everything about that is alarming to me.
And it's like, oh, what if the robot went to space? So there's the space Tenga robot with the space Tenga rocket. And then it's like,
So,
what? Hey, what if we actually just sent
hey,
one
was
into
that
space
one of
for
the
real?
things that crashed over this weekend?
That
No,
was-
wait, no. That was that Chinese rocket.
and it's like, yeah, what if we just actually launched one into space? Because Tenga is actually launching a Tenga
Am I
into
the only
space.
person who has a feeling Elon Musk was involved? Because doesn't that sound like he would be involved? In
That
something
sounds
like this?
exactly like something Elon
Like,
Musk would do.
doesn't
The
it?
dude
It's
shot
just
his
like-
fucking own car into space with a mannequin in it, and now it missed its target. Now it's gonna orbit the sun for thousands of years.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Doesn't that totally sound like something he would do?
Yeah, but that's marketing from 3105. Like that's futuristic marketing. That's like, Japanese marketers are living in the future while all the other marketing people are stuck in like barely even 2021. And that's part of the thing. That's part of the thing about anime is that it's
It's always had a marketing muscle, always.
on some level, at least with the
Since I've
advent
been into
of
it anyway.
like at least since the production committee business model, well, as a matter of fact, far before then, it's been a marketing tool.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, in some cases, the anime itself was being used to promote like a visual novel or
Model
an
kits.
an erage or a manga or toys or what have you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
And the anime itself it's a solid product
The
on its
commercial.
own, but at the same time, it's also meant to sell other products. And that's
Right,
the whole thing.
it's sort of creative in the sense that this thing itself is actually a commercial, but the commercial itself is also a product.
Exactly.
It's like how many times have you ever actually seen that?
Like you wouldn't go out and buy a DVD of the commercial you saw on TV that some Madison Avenue people
yeah,
came
exactly.
up
You
with.
wouldn't buy a DVD of like I don't know Progressive Insurance commercial.
Exactly. You wouldn't
I
do
They
that.
used to have commercials like like of things on tape in like the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that would be like incidental. But you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
go out and buy the fucking Geico commercial compilation. Like you wouldn't go out and buy the first season of Geico commercials on Blu-ray. But you're gonna go out and buy the fucking first season of the Saikano light novel commercials on Blu-ray, and it's gonna fucking cost you $100-something to get it, and you're gonna do it because you like the anime and you like the light novel and whatnot, and that's the thing about anime and why it's so different. It's the fact that it's such an embedded commercial medium is part of what makes it so good because they know they have to make
merchandising
it
thing is
good.
bad because capitalism's bad.
That-
Consumerism's bad.
I'll be real with you. People who say that are really just out of touch with how any of this works.
Okay.
I'm not even inclined to dignify that with a rebuttal because it's just straight up. It's so
Dumb.
far. It's so fundamentally incorrect that I have a difficult time believing that the people who say that are being genuine, either on the one way where they're like super into anime, but on the other way where they're super against capitalism and consumerism. One of these
Kind of,
things doesn't fit with the other
Mother's
one.
Basement.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
well, there's a reason he's called that.
But so this gets back to the point is the genesis of anime is in the production committee, which means that any make less anime scenario would be a result in some way of production committees commissioning fewer anime. And when that happening would be turmoil for the rest of the the anime industry as far as the studios goes, because that's a condition imposed upon the studios as they exist currently. It's not the studios deciding to make fewer anime because
You know what it reminds me of?
they want to cut down on the resource use. It's okay. All the studios currently are set up to operate in the anime space as it exists, which is something like 200. I don't know the statistics, but it's up in the upper hundreds, perhaps in the lower 200s of anime coming out each year. So if
I mean,
the
here's the
if the
thing.
studios are set up to do that, and then you suddenly impose upon them the condition where they're not getting as much work as they previously got, which means they're not making nearly as much revenue as they previously got. That's not going to be a good condition for the studios. It's not going to be a good condition for the animators you're trying to save. That's not going to be a good condition for the industry in general.
Yeah, it's basically the way it works is just take it. How do I word this? Yeah, you'd have to scale that to see where the problem would be. You know what I mean? You'd have to shrink it at the same level that it would grow to see where the problems actually would show up.
Well, so so people like
Oops.
the argument comes from we're trying to save the animators, and again, everyone agrees that the work conditions and the pay is horrendous. What we all disagree on is what the solution needs to be. So we all agree that $2 per frame isn't enough for animators. But what I never hear is what is.
Right. Basically, you can't really fix a problem if you don't actually have some reasonable, realistic goals.
Yeah, we need some numbers. It's like we know they're not getting enough, but we don't know what enough is. So I quick maths. I did this back in 2020. The animator supporters group, the ones doing the animator dormitory, they put out a YouTube video, and it calculated up the annual pay for a regular ass animator.
Mm-hmm.
And so to bring that up to United States federal minimum wage would be a greater than 100% increase in the cost to employ an animator.
Yeah, so it's not going to happen by that logic.
Yeah, if
they're better off having their own like GoFundMe or some shit.
Well, if we agree that the studios are like on razor thin margins, guaranteed that most of those studios can't handle a 100% increase in the cost to employ each one of their animators. Like you would double their expenses overnight.
Yeah, and that would be needless to say, I think a lot of these places would go under.
Yeah, a lot of studios would go under.
If they tried to do it.
A lot of animators would lose their jobs. The industry would be in turmoil. So, and this is going out in the RSC now, and this article really should have gotten a lot more attention than it did. I apologize that it's from Anime News Network, but it's literally the only place that's reporting on this, which is surprising because they're usually... I usually don't expect them to talk about the real issues like this, but this is from an industry insider talked to Tokyo Keizai, which is a business newspaper magazine in Japan, about the conditions at the anime production studios.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the thing that they talked about at length was a lot of these studios are bad at handling their financials. And again, this isn't something that you generally hear about when talking about these animators need to be paid more or they should make fewer anime issues. It's surprising to me because this seems to be a significant problem. Because here's the other thing is that Terumi Nishii went out and did a few interviews with some outlets. Did an interview with Anime News Network. Did an interview with Otaku USA, talking about the conditions at anime studios. And one of the things that Nishii mentioned was that Netflix budgets, the budgets that Netflix hands down to anime studios they work with are some 2 to 3 times the size of regular anime budgets that come from regular production committees. However, though that 2 to 3 times does not make it down to the animators.
No.
So we need to figure out where the fuck that money's going.
Right.
We need to figure that out before we get into this. Oh well, they're making too much anime and this and that. Where is this money going that it's not making it to the animators?
If you can't track the money, yeah, there's going to be problems.
It's not going to matter what we do if Netflix at 2 to 3 times the budget for a regular ass anime can't figure out how, like, we can't figure out how that's not getting down to the animators. Like everyone's talking about they're making too much anime with this Katakawa shit. I think we need to figure out what the fuck is going on with Netflix working with these studios that none of that money is making it down to the animators. According to anime industry veteran Terumi Nishii. And so when we get to the they're making too much anime argument, it's difficult for me to get on board with that notion when what we're looking at is when these problems exist at a studio level. Like we can have that conversation after we figured out what's going on at these studios, why they're so bad at the business portion of what they do, and what's going on with these studios working with Netflix that none of this money is making it down to the animator level. Where is that money going? Because honestly, looking at some of Netflix's output, it's not going into the animation. I don't know where it's going, but X-Arm was Crunchyroll. Then there were only X-Arm was like, that's the traditional business model, and it sometimes it doesn't work out. This is another thing that I have seen in some responses to the they should make less anime thing, and it's not their fault. They were lied to by people for decades about this, but budget generally has nothing to do with the quality of anime. No. Most anime has a similar budget to other anime. It's not a that was a long-standing myth for a long time, and in recent years it's fallen out of favor. But some people, and it's something
it out every once in a while.
Well, it's a thing that kind of makes sense. But
well, sure.
If you understand the industry, it doesn't actually make sense.
It's going to look better.
Yeah.
Gee.
But
what really happens is that money is actually just divvied up better. I mean, you know what I mean? It's divvied up. It doesn't go more toward the animation. It
has to also be the people.
Yeah, exactly.
The talent, that's the talent pool and the interest in, because in a way you could tell when you can't you tell when someone's really interested in what they're working on?
Oh,
versus-
I'll give you
absolutely.
I'll give you an outlier that if you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I mean.
Yes.
Okay, most TV anime, as good as it might look, doesn't really look as good as a movie or an OVA.
True.
I mean, just can we all agree on that? I mean, sometimes you get one that's kind of like, whoa, what the hell? But on average, it doesn't. But I'll give you a weird example. Heaven's Lost Property. Look at that.
Mm.
It does not look like your standard TV anime, at least from what I remember. I distinctly remember this looks like it had a lot more work put into it.
Yeah.
Now, whether you like the show or not, that's really beyond the point. I'm just pointing out that this was a TV anime, and it has much higher production values than, say, some random middling slice of life show.
Yeah.
I got a better one for you. This season from Doga Kobo, Osumake, looks like crap. Even though it's Doga Kobo, which usually does very, very well in their production value standards. So that tells me that this was just something that they were contractually obligated to do, but didn't really.
Well, obviously, all your passion projects look amazing.
True.
I mean, like anything that's like auteur or takes a long time to make. I mean, I always said that Unicorn and Origin took a while to make, and it looks like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, you waited 6 months between each OVA, and it's like, yeah, you can tell. That's not a hiatus type of thing. It took that long to make it look that good. Now I don't really know some of the ins and outs. I mean, I know they have deadlines, and you're seeing some of the crunch in that when you have to go back and fix it for the home releases when they have like bad parts.
Yeah, Strike Witches did a lot of this.
Every Shaft anime ever.
Yeah. I mean, love them to death, but some of the original runs are a little bad. Just saying. Speaking of them, not to go on a tangent, but have they released anything that's generated much interest outside of Monica with the regulars, as I like to call them?
I would say Monogatari.
Really? That appeals. I find that hard to believe that franchise appeals to the average goer there.
You know what? I'm thinking now.
I feel like after Monica blew up, people tried to like the Monogatari series, and that was a toss-up.
I think what happened is they caught the wind. They caught the wind of that one, and it kind of blew up, and everybody was like, "Yay, this is good!" And so it was okay to like it. But then, immediately they followed up with, Denpa Onna and stuff like that, and that just didn't catch like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, but that's more what they're normally like.
Yeah. Well, Shaft isn't even like that anymore. They're just like any other studio now. Although to be fair, they are going to do a new Monica movie with the original people with it.
I was going to say, it's like oh boy, another cash cow that they're never going to let go away.
True, and I would say that, but I'm hopeful only because of the people involved. If it was more of the guidance thing, then I would have said yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he still works at Shaft, doesn't he? I mean, in general.
Well, he's going to do the new movie.
Well, no, I mean, just say in general though. You said they were bringing him back for the movie. It's like, well, he didn't go anywhere, did he?
I don't think a lot of. I think he's more of a
like an in betweener or something now.
No, what's that thing? Like almost like a freelance director, because he's been out. Because Shimbo's been out.
You said it. You said it best just then. A freelance. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So I'm reading now, and apparently he did have a hiatus.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I did think he was missing for a while there. I didn't really hear a lot of his. Apparently, he's supposed to be working on that new Maka movie, like you said.
Yeah, and as I said, normally I would be kind of like, like, well, but again, if it's being done by the right people, so
it has more. It catches your interest more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of like, it's almost like when you like I don't know, like a baseball team or a football team. It's like, oh, the MVPs are the good MVPs.
Yeah.
They sort of strengthen and grab your attention more than just the brand itself per se. Anyway, sorry about that. I sort of knocked us off trajectory there.
No, that's fine. I mean, I do kind of miss classic Shaft.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit I do kind of even miss the weird things like Arakawa under the bridge.
Yeah, there was this. The show was like
it was
selling.
never boring.
The selling was the weirdness of what this absurd premise.
Well, I mean, again, it was, if it wasn't good, it was never boring.
Yeah. I still need to one day check. What's the one? Oh, I forgot the name. The one with the maid. The maid trap.
Oh.
Yeah,
Maria Holic.
Maria Holic. That's it.
Okay, yeah, Maria Holic. I mean, my first introduction to Shinbo and all that was stuff like Pony Pony Dash, Moon Phase,
The same, yeah,
things like that. Even Hidamari Sketch and some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, definitely.
So I was into that before like Madoka ever really got popular.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking it was going to be interesting just because they had Gen Urobuchi involved.
See, I was the only one that didn't know who that was before Madoka.
Well, I actually did know that. He was pretty notorious. I mean, you call him Uro Butcher for a reason.
Yeah.
But anyhow, not to turn this into the Shaft show, which we could do. We've done one, but it's been a while.
We could do one again someday.
So that's the issue, is we need to figure out if we're actually for real trying to solve the problem going on with the animator working conditions and whatnot. We need to figure out what's going on at the studios first.
The needs of production.
And make less anime should be way down the list of stuff we need to figure the fuck out before we get back to
because like if that ever happens, that they're not gonna make they're gonna make things more for what Western tastes.
Yeah, that's another part of it, is that on some level it's a bad faith argument to begin with, because I'm not certain, like I'm not convinced that the people on the they should make fewer anime train would be quite as on board if that meant that any anime they like would never get made. Because make fewer anime could be like, that could be anything. Something something you would have really enjoyed might be the thing that gets put on the chopping block. And
given their basic business models of how they promote things that sell,
you get
some bad news for some of you.
Yeah, you're gonna eliminate a lot of people, a lot of anime that might not necessarily be as successful as the big trend cute girl anime, or the
Iyashikei. That's the thing that most people complain about now, is the number of Iyashikei shows.
And
free to watch them.
Yeah, if that meant that
Time Traveler from 1984 pops in for a second and says, "There's too many goddamn robot shows."
Yeah, exactly.
Pops his head back in.
Yeah, if that meant that 75% of anime coming out today would be isekai, would you still be on the they need to make fewer anime train? Keeping in mind that we don't even know if that will solve the problem. And there's reason to believe that that would actually make the problem much worse. Keep it in mind that we're not investigating the why are studios so bad at accounting? Where is the 2x 3x Netflix budgets going that's not going to the animators? 3, we talked about this.
Cuties 2.
No. He said triple X, and I'm thinking of like waist sizes.
Number 3, we talked about this several episodes ago. What happens because international revenue is such a large proportion of the anime industry's overall revenue? What happens if China decides to tighten down even more on international entertainment? Because that caused the international revenue to stagnate, which in turn caused the anime industry's overall revenue to stagnate.
Yeah, I heard some show that came back after like some new anime was brought to China after like 7 years or something. I forgot what it was.
Well, part of the issue with that paradigm is that international revenue does not make it to the studios at nearly the same proportion as domestic revenue does. If you look at the anime industry report, if you look at that chart of overall anime industry revenue versus anime studio revenue, you will see that where in the latter half of the 2010s, international revenue makes up a greater and greater proportion of a greater percentage of overall revenue for the anime industry. It's not proportional to how much international revenue is going to the studios. Not nearly proportional. So the more anime industry revenue comes from overseas, the less overall revenue the anime studios see in comparison. We're not talking about that as far as trying to get the animators paid more. We're not talking about why the Japanese industry needs to grow their domestic revenue. Nobody's talking about it. NTR Radio and OtakuEntrepreneur.com are the only people talking about that aspect. Meanwhile,
I think a lot of people find that kind of stuff boring, but the thing is,
it should be immensely
you might think it's boring, but it's important.
Well, it should be immensely interesting to people who are concerned about getting the animators paid more. But here's the other thing: is you got places like, I think it was comicbook.com, and then you got other places like Crunchyroll News, where they're out here basically celebrating the fact that so much industry revenue is coming from overseas. You could argue that they have a vested interest in that. Could make that argument. But my concern is that that's kind of it's a concerning paradigm, because not only does that put that the anime industry in a precarious position, because literally anything could happen in China, literally anything could happen in the United States, where the anime market goes through a contraction in one or both of those places, and that we basically get a repeat of what happened in 2007, but even worse, because this is approaching half of the industry's overall revenue. Mm-hmm. That's number one. And then number two is that money's not making it to the studios either. That money's not making it to the animators either. That money's not making it to the people that we're concerned about helping. But we're not concerned about that being a problem quite as much as how much anime is being commissioned to these studios that need constant work in order to stay afloat. The studios need more revenue. That's the issue. And that's not an issue that's going to be solved by, they should make less anime. They should make fewer anime per season. How does that bring the studios more revenue? All that does is limit the amount of work that they're able to do, which limits the amount of revenue they're able to bring in. Which if we're trying to get the animator wages up to at least federal minimum wage, United States, which again is an over 100% increase in the cost to employ an animator. What we don't want is studios having fewer opportunities to generate revenue. They need more opportunities to generate revenue, and what might have to happen is studios might have to create some opportunities to generate revenue that aren't predicated on money coming down from production committees via a budget to pay for an anime that comes out. They might have to figure out how else to do that. I know Studio Trigger has their Patreon, which that works somewhat for Studio Trigger. I'm not certain how much that's able to sustain animators.
I think that would work for a project.
I believe it. Well, as far Kickstarter would work for a project. Patreon would be more like ongoing support. And don't get me wrong. I support the fact that Studio Trigger has a Patreon. But my point with that is that's not going to work for JC Staff.
No.
Nobody gives a fuck about that. Oh, JC Staff made this anime? Pumped. Let's go. JC Staff, let's do it. You don't get that with JC Staff. You don't get that with you. There are some people who have some loyalty to studios, like VZ. You and I like Dokukobo.
Yeah.
But it's not really the same as people have with Studio Trigger. It on some level it's not really the same as people have with, say, Production IG, which does a lot of work for Netflix now. And they're part of the people taking that two times, 3 times budget that we don't know where it's going to.
Yeah, it's interesting that some of this money seems like it's kind of the left sock from in the dryer.
Yeah,
is there like a single person or taking all that money? Is it?
We don't know.
Entity?
Is it being siphoned off into some shady shit? Who knows?
Yakuza.
I don't think it's anything like that. I think it just connect the dots. What dots we have? We know that poor accounting practices are common at anime production studios, and we know that Netflix is paying 2 to 3 times the normal budget for these anime. So if A is true for most studios, then we can infer that it's getting lost somewhere in accounting, and we don't know. We don't quite.
Is there like just some joker pocketing it, or?
So this is from the article. This is from ANN article talking to Terumi Nishii on the Netflix budget specifically. According to Nishii, budgets on Netflix anime are roughly twice or 3 times the amount for regular anime. However, animator wages have not raised accordingly. She remarked that the animation production companies don't seem to be thrilled and that the work is as hard as ever. Although she's not in a position to state definitively where the money is being spent, she said that from what she has heard, the money received by production companies has tended to go to capital investments. So the anime studios might be investing that money, which maybe that might actually be a good long-term call. But if we're concerned about the animators getting paid more, we need to figure out, can we reconcile that with giving the animators additional pay for their work? And that's another thing that we talked about this a long time ago, is that the anime studios, on some level they have a lack of a long-term vision, and this is just what's apparent to me. On some level they have a lack of a long-term vision, and on some level that's kind of unavoidable because they're stuck in this loop of we're
chasing trends.
Not chasing trends, but they're okay. We got the budget for this anime. Got to work on this anime. Now we gotta start work on the next anime, we gotta start work on the next anime, and they're on this rate, they're walking this tightrope with no few opportunities to increase their increase their capital that aren't predicated on money coming down from a production committee. Now, again, we've started seeing more anime studios sit on their own production committees, and I think that's going to be a big that's going to be a big way out for a lot of studios. But the the issue is getting other studios. Like, ideally, every studio would sit on its own production on the production committee for every anime it makes. But my understanding would be that not every studio has the free capital to invest in the anime that they're being asked to make. So Studio A might sit on a production committee for one anime they make, but not for the next two or three, maybe. But the issue is that these studios don't have a lot of opportunities to gain more revenue outside of getting money from the production committees and outside of, again, TV broadcast, disc sales, and whatnot.
Basically outside of normal channels.
Outside of normal channels, which again is why I say that part of the solution, I think, needs to be more anime being able to sit on their own production committees, but the issue is getting them to that level. The issue is getting them to a point where they have that kind of money to throw around. Because like, if an anime is sitting on its own production committee and the anime fails, that's it, where it might be not that bad for the major company, the Aniplex or the Katakawa or all these mega corporations that exist in the media space. For an anime studio, that might be devastating. Because they maybe don't necessarily have that kind of money to just throw around at things that fail. So if I was in that space, I would be very judicious about what anime my studio is making that we invest our own money in, because if it doesn't do well and it doesn't do well in a
You should make a union. I've heard that argument too.
I've heard that argument too. There is some merit to that, but I don't think that's the I don't think that's the panacea a lot of people think it's going to be. Like, here's how I see that scenario playing out. If they make a union and they basically strong arm the studios into paying higher wages, either a lot of people lose their jobs or quite a few studios go under completely because they're not able to keep up with that.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I get it. I get why that's a solution that people suggest. I don't think it would necessarily work quite as well as people believe it does. I've also heard people talking about the government should help out. Like, the government should invest some money into it. And again, it sounds like it could work, but my issue is I don't trust that. Like, so it's part of it's a trust thing. Like, I just generally don't trust government money in something like especially a creative endeavor, and especially a creative endeavor that is so embedded in business like anime. That's number one. Number two, I don't trust that it's not going to lead to an environment where the studios are relying on this money from the government, and say the administration changes and the person
they just decide to cut it off.
Exactly. The person who's the custodian of that government money decides to
Turn off the drip.
invest it in something else, or they just pull it that
Allocate it somewhere else.
this thing isn't as important as this other thing. We're gonna allocate the money to this other place, and that's
Which
gonna
leaves
actually
people with their
create
pants down.
that's gonna actually create more turmoil because now these studios have gotten used to this government money, and they're not able to sustain the 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 degree of business that they were able to do with the government money. And that's, again, either a lot of people lose their jobs or a lot of studios shut down as a result. The only way I can see this kind of thing going toward, like, an external help, like an external aid going for doing well for the industry, is either some kind of charity, which is something that we kind of have with the animator dormitory, or B, and we've talked about this before too, is a company investing in an anime studio on in a private equity sort of capacity, where
Right.
where now you have a company sitting on the board who's given invested in the studio, and their primary reason for investing in the studio is, okay, use this money to improve your work conditions and increase your pay for your animators. Because people like that exist. Activist investors exist. People who invest in particular companies to try and steer them in a particular direction that they think is better, better overall, better for the world, better for the environment, such and such. So if an activist investor were to look at an anime studio and say, hey, I have a whole bunch of this money, you use this specifically to improve your work conditions, and everything you get from production committees and whatnot, that's all production. My money is to sustain your workforce and create a healthier environment for them. And I think that could lead to a positive upward spiral, but this is all theoretical. If I had the kind of money to throw around, I would try and look for a way to do that, just to see if it would work. If I had that kind of money to throw around.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Yeah,
I'm glad you got that.
Burgermeister in the chat says, did you already cover the whole worry that if they make more anime, they'll have to rely more on outsourcing and CG?
I mean, sure. That is a concern. But I don't necessarily see how that's a make fewer anime thing, because that really is saying the quiet part out loud. So okay, they should make fewer anime because the anime that they're gonna make is gonna be all outsourced in CG. And I mean, sure, yes, that probably is true. But I thought we were concerned about the animators.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, now I didn't know, and I'm still sort of waffling on this. So, okay, now I saw this picture. This is totally non-related, but to lighten things up a bit, related to Macross.
Mm.
Okay, it was Min Mei singing into a chicken leg.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
So, now I heard that this was an actual thing, like an actual blooper they made, which I don't know how that would happen, but okay. Now, this just had the old noggin jogging a bit. Okay. This has serious crossover potential. Follow me here. Macross and Popeyes.
I'm on board.
Now, listen to me carefully. Think about it. The movie Macross. Do you remember "Love That Chicken from Popeyes"?
Jesus Christ!
I've been waiting to sneak that one in there ever since I saw that picture.
I mean that here's the thing though. I don't think maybe KFC instead. But
Yeah, because they have
but
KFCs, man.
here's the thing:
which
they could actually
which
fucking do
one-
that.
Oh no!
They did it with
No.
Code Geass and Pizza Hut.
The entire reason I said that is because of the "Do you remember Love" name.
Yeah,
Do not confuse it for anything else.
I'm
That's
with
the
you,
only reason
but-
I suggested them.
I'm with you, but I'm gonna ride on this. They could do that.
Yeah,
like,
but
that's-
KFC is an actual embedded in Japan.
That's
so.
kind of the thing with anime is fucking. They could do Popeyes and Macross, and it wouldn't really be like. It would be kind of obvious that it's a product placement, but not even. Like obviously,
What's hilarious whenever you see like Pepsi or something, and it's not called that, but it still has that emblem
yeah,
with
yeah.
with the the yin yang.
Well, it's like fucking Tiger and Bunny just went all out.
Yeah.
The superheroes actually sponsored by Pepsi in the anime, and then of course I'm pretty sure that Pepsi put up some money for product placement in real life, and that's kind of like that's really the great thing about anime is it's highly
And then when
commercial.
it comes out here, they can't do it.
Well,
So they have.
well, well, no, they did do it unless you're on Netflix watching Tiger and Bunny, and then in
Well,
which
no,
case
I mean
they
like
took all the
Code
product
Geass,
placement.
how they censored the Pizza Hut logo.
Yeah, that was
they
disappointing.
they left the actual emblem, but they got rid of the word.
Yeah,
Which not a fan that they did that, but and that's always the big pain in the butt because just because you have the license for it over there doesn't mean it travels over here too.
yeah,
I mean, things get really weird like that. Like it's interesting how you can have like an American organization like Pizza Hut, and then you have them basically contract to use it in the show, right? Or they let you do it, but then when you bring it back over here, you can't. Isn't it interesting though?
it's weird.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I mean, it really does show you how entangled a lot of this junk is.
yeah. Well, that's part of the reason like we couldn't get Macross 7 over here for the longest time. It's like
Mm-hmm.
like all these music licenses we can't do that
Yeah.
shit.
Like if you want to talk about a show that was like pretty much being held hostage and not able to come out, like the Wonder Years is an example of that, because it was full of all the music of the time it was supposed to be, exploring. And while they had the rights to syndication on television, did not have them for home video like that. And so there was this really long tug of war that took years and years and years to actually get the normal thing out here. It's annoying, but it's really kind of sort of a combination of just things being really intertangled and drawn up when they weren't
They
really
weren't thinking about
the future like that. And also there's a certain level of businesses going bankrupt in between.
Yep.
And it shifts ownership and all this other kind of bullshit. So I mean, you get what I'm saying. Whew. So yeah, there's definitely some I don't know if there's shenanigans going on, but there's definitely some where's Waldo with the money?
It's that, and it's the fact that people don't seem to be trying to investigate where this is, like where this is all going, on the side that is also very concerned about the animators. And I think that's the real core issue here, is that we're talking about, okay, well, Kadokawa's going to be ordering all this anime. They're going to be commissioning all this anime, and it's going to run the studio's thing. It's like, yes, true. However, number one, if they weren't making that much anime, it would be potentially a bigger problem. And number two, that's not even really where the problem is. That's not where the problem exists. That's not the first place we should be looking. That's not even the second or third or fourth or fifth place we should be looking to figure out where this problem is. Because we know that the anime studios have problems with accounting. We know that these Netflix budgets are being, you could consider them being misappropriated, but they're not making it down to the animators.
Where they're supposedly supposed to be going.
Where if we're on the help the animators paradigm, we should be very, very, very concerned about
Feed
that.
the children, help the animators.
Yeah, and it's, you say it as a
Look at the
joke, but it's like,
starving animator.
well, you say it as a joke, but this is a very real problem that we all agree is a problem. My concern, though, is that people are looking at the business model as the cause of the problem, and we're not holding the studios accountable for their role in this. And I think that's a concerning part, because it's one thing to notice a problem and understand, okay, there needs to be something out there to help out these there needs to be some kind of effort. We need to come up with some kind of solution, or a body of solutions, a set of solutions to tackle this problem. It's another thing to completely ignore an entire element of what is contributing to the problem. And I don't understand what the issue is. I don't understand why we're so hesitant to hold the studios accountable for not being able to do right by their own animators.
I'm sure on some level there is the language barrier, as being it's impossible for you to really get in the ins and outs of some of the stuff that they're talking amongst themselves.
Yeah, but we have these two articles on the internet's most trusted anime news source, both talking about this issue, talking about Tokyo Keizai, talking very specifically. Title: Poor accounting at animation production studios is the reason behind low animator wages. And you scroll down, and there's 9 posts in the discussion forum.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it, it's like,
now do questionable attire in a video game.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, why are we not talking about? Why is this not like 20 pages long? You got 9 posts talking about, like, this title is basically like, we found the real problem. We found it. We figured it out. Here's the real problem. And 9 posts in the discussion forum. And it's confusing to me that this kind of information is not as widespread as, oh, Katakawa wants to make more anime. That's a problem. We need to be making less anime because this guy at a studio said so. It's a weird issue. It feels like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Like it feels like I'm looking around and it's like me and you two and like a few other people that we talk to and a few people that I talk back and forth with on like any Twitter, all looking at this they should make less anime thing. Is, oh, really? Meanwhile, everyone else is on board with that, and it's like this Tokyo Keizai Anime News Network article is like only exists for me and like 8 other people. That's how it feels, because I'm looking at this. It exists. I got multiple links to it. I've linked to this like multiple times on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird issue because they're basically saying, hey, we figured it out. They don't know how to do accounting. We figured the shit out. We have the answer. You don't have to wonder anymore.
Better.
We know what the
Better
problem
stop
is now.
making as much anime.
But now Katakawa comes out and it's good news. Katakawa company coming out said, hey, we made a fuckload more money in 2020 than we did in 2019. What we're gonna do is roll that into creating more anime so we can have more success going forward. That's good news. I'm rejoicing about that. That's great. The anime industry is doing great. Even in 2020, the anime industry is doing excellent, but people coming out saying, well, they should make that's bad. They should be making less anime because the animators.
Some of it is clearly people just posturing. I mean, let's be real here. There's some of these people that probably ultimately don't give two shits. They're just trying to look good.
There is definitely an element of this where it's people trying to say, I really care about the conditions that these animators work under, and as a result of that, like coming off of that, I think they should make less anime and they haven't really looked into the issue. They're just repeating what they've heard other like higher level people say. And I understand that, but my issue, and VZ, you and I had the same issue with that one Answer Man article. My issue is I'm not certain that those higher level people are looking at the big picture. I'm and it's part of the thing is I get that people are concerned about the studios and concerned about the animators. We need to not be afraid to hold the studios accountable. And it's like, it's, to a certain extent, it's like, what can any of us do from over here? But
from over here, yeah.
It needs to. This needs to be. This needs to be widespread knowledge that anime studios often have poor accounting practices. If we're concerned about the animators, this should be common knowledge. If we're concerned about the animators, it should be common knowledge that Netflix offers 2 to 3 times as much money to the studios they work with as a budget, and that money is not making it down to the animators. That should be a concern. Nobody's talking about that one either.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really more to say. I mean, if you actually care, there's probably some need of doing a little more homework there. Not that I expect anybody to do that, because it's just easier for someone else to say X, Y, Z, and people to parry it.
Well, it's like we need to look at the whole picture. Not just blame the business model, not just blame Katakawa because they want to make more anime.
Well, here's the other thing.
The whole picture, and not just, hey, Katakawa's making more anime. Katakawa wants to make more anime. That's bad.
Well, yeah, it's like, don't you trust in the company that ultimately their goal is to make money?
Like no, because they're making money.
No, you're missing the point. I'm not talking about those people. It's like, no, don't you trust in these people that they know on some level what they're doing?
I mean, well, on some level, I kind of think VZ is right. So there's a part of this argument that says that the desire for companies like Katakawa to make more money is a detriment to the animators because it causes the animators to be overworked more. Which if you're looking at it at a big picture, understanding that the production committee and the companies on the production committee are the genesis of anime doesn't it doesn't map that way, but it's easy to look at Katakawa saying we want to make more anime, and then look at the studio and the animators looking like ragamuffins sleeping under their desks, destitute, and that's an exaggeration, but that's the comparison that people are drawing. Is like Katakawa, massive company that basically just cares about making money, and the animators that are they're eating ramen, they're sleeping under their desks, they're working ungodly hours for terrible pay that we all agree is bad. And look at that, like Katakawa is basically stealing from those animators because they're trying to make money. It's easy to look at it that way, but that's not the whole picture. And I think that's what people aren't taking into account.
Fair enough.
Like
Okay,
it's like so
that's
what Burgermeister links this one Twitter thread, and this is kind of the exact attitude I'm talking about. When it comes to seeing anime further, gross attitude when it comes to seeing anime purely as a product and for what it means to a terribly overworked industry. People need to realize that a lot of anime exists not as a creative endeavor, not even as an individual title, but as a mere plus one. Which that sounds bad when just off the bat that sounds like a bad thing, but we all realize that a lot of anime we really liked was created by that business model.
Well, I was gonna say, the fact that they use the word gross in such a obnoxious way.
And that aside, is that yes, what people need to realize that anime is a marketing tool, but
no, it isn't. My art teacher said so. It's about the art.
Your
that's
art
another
teacher's a moron.
That's another thing is people need to realize it's because that's half a paradigm, and what that does is causes
Susie Napier's book in
well,
class.
what that does is cause that kind of reaction where it's like, well, that
Have you
it's
actually
a bad
heard
thing.
anybody say that?
But so
Well,
I have not.
I did have to read Susie Napier's
No,
book.
no. I'm asking you. I'm not asking you if you had to read the book or not. I'm asking you, ever since you've been out of art school or whatever, have you actually heard anybody use that excuse?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so I didn't think so.
But that's kind of the general like mentality when people encounter that paradigm for the first times. Anime is a marketing tool, and the problem is that people stop there. It's like,
it's
whoa.
like, no shit, it's a marketing tool.
Well,
what's the issue?
Well, we understand that, but when people encounter that paradigm for the first time, it's like, whoa. It's like a culture shock. It's like, whoa, this stuff is just a marketing. It's all just big business. That's horrible. That's a horrific paradigm. But that's the problem is that's half a paradigm. Anime exists as a marketing tool, and that means that number one, it has to be very good in order to succeed. Which is why one of your favorite anime was probably created as a marketing tool, and that's why you like it. And I understand it's kind of an obnoxious way to say it, but
I
it's
like the ones
truth.
that talk about people and feelings and give a message.
Some of those anime were created as a marketing tool as well. That's the thing. Well, Studio
It's
Ghibli.
like, okay, we get it. You're a hippie. Shut the fuck up.
Studio Ghibli's a different thing, but the issue is, it's you're telling half the story when you're focusing on that. It's like, yes, the issue is that you're telling half the story. You're not looking at the part where that's a good thing. And to be fair, by itself, that's a neutral statement, but a lot of people are going to look at that because they've internalized this, maybe not even internalized, but they've come up with this notion of anime as a great artistic thing, which it is. There's nothing that precludes it from being artistic, but it's also a marketing tool, and people need to understand that. And people need to understand that to a level where they're okay with that because it consistently produces stuff they really, really, really like.
I think that's the show.
Yeah, I think it's been kind of dragging out.
Yeah. So baseline, I'm tired of the make less anime thing because it doesn't look at the big picture. It doesn't map to how the industry works, and would kind of make things worse overall if we went that way. And it ignores everything else that's just waving its arms in the air saying, "Hey, we figured it out." Poor accounting at production studios is the reason behind low animated rates. We figured it out, but we're still focused on Kadokawa wanted to make too many anime per year. So, that's the show. The email address is ntrradio@gmail.com. The website is ntrradio.net. Check out VZ stuff at vzmk2mo@mechagattai.wordpress.com, as well as thebigbookofIdols.com, which is his book, The Big Book of Idols.
Yep.
He does the designs for our merch, which you can find at iyashike.moe/store. Iyashike.moe being the otaku lifestyle and self-development blog that I run. I also run otakuentrepreneur.com, which is business and finance from an otaku perspective. And you can read my article there on Is There Too Much Anime? Weebonomics, Is There Too Much Anime, I believe, is the title of that one. I'm also coming out with a book called Otaku Entrepreneur. You can find that at otakuentrepreneur.com/book. I make music now, apparently. You can find some of my music at Utami Music or utamirecords.com. UTAMI records.com. I also came out with an album, apparently. It's called The First Paradigm because I made a joke back in 2017 that I was going to call my mixtape series The First Paradigm and The Second Paradigm because I use the word paradigm all the time. But you can listen to The First Paradigm now on Spotify.
Paradigm City. The city where everyone has lost their memories.
Yes.
Shinakiba.moe is where I sell half-naked anime girl figures. On Twitter, I am TEAnubis. VZ is VZ at VZMK2. The show is at NTR_radio. Check out Bakugaijin Show, Otaku Midnight, Asobi FM, and the Geeky Panda stuff at thegeekypanda.net because all their stuff is really good. I'm Tom Force Anubis.
I'm K-Gods.
And I'm VZ Mark II.
And even though Kadokawa decides to make 40 more anime every time we say it, this is NTR Radio.